My name is Maddalena Bearzi. I will introduce this panel, and I warn you that it's kind of a different panel from what you heard before. So why do we need a panel on communicating science? We all know that traditional scientific training doesn't typically prepare scientists to be effective communicators outside of academia. Our papers, which go through a painful peer-review process, are far from being understandable to the public. Even in conversation, we tend to speak in scientific terms. However, the need to engage the public directly and share information effectively is becoming more and more important due to the critical issue we are now facing. We scientists are often called upon to provide information, often to non-scientists, on which management policies are built. How we communicate that information can have a measurable impact on the future of our ocean. The objective of today's panel is to present diverse and hopefully innovative idea of communicating science to the public. And the invited panelists come from all different backgrounds and have been chosen to share their ideas for exactly this purpose. So let me introduce it to you. On the top left, we have Ken Weiss. He is Pulitzer Prize winning staff writer for the Los Angeles Times. The LA Times recently published Ken's latest series, Beyond 7 Billion, about the causes and consequences of human population growth. Ken was also the staff lead reporter for the Outer Ocean series. And as Ken told me, he likes to conduct his own brand of marine mammal research, studying marine mammals from his surfboard. Dr. Jerry Schubel is president and CEO of the Aquarium of the Pacific. He holds a master's from Harvard and a PhD from Johns Hopkins University. He authored over 225 scientific papers, and he has written extensively for the general public. Jerry has worked through his professional life the interface between science, management, and policy on issues dealing with the ocean. Sean McGillivray is producer, co-president, and director of McGillivray-Freeman. He is currently producing 3 new movies, To the Arctic, Everest, and One World, One Ocean. He is also the co-founder and director of the One World, One Ocean campaign. Josh Jones is staff research associate at Scripps Whale Acoustic Laboratory. He studied Arctic marine mammals and tracked whale using passive acoustic monitoring. And he is also in charge, he directs the Whales Voices in the Sea, a multimedia exhibit about whales. Bernardo, as probably you all know, is a research associate with the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium and field technician for PRBO Conservation Science. He's a great photographer, he's a freelance journalist, and also a social media consultant. And down on the right there, it's me, president and co-founder of Ocean Conservation Society. I hold a PhD and a postdoc from UCLA. I have worked with marine mammals for the last 25 years, of which the last 16 here in Southern California. I have also been a photojournalist in Europe. I'm Italian, as you can probably guess. I'm now working on Ocean Conservation Society and as a science writer. And considering that I'm already comfortable here on this podium, I will open the panel and use my leftover 5 minutes or so time to talk about telling science through books, or better yet, popular science book. I will summarize for you what I've learned from my experiences as a marine biologist, but also from my book publisher, book editors, and agents. And some of these ideas may seem obvious to you, but I think still are a great reminder for somebody interested in writing a popular science book. Studying dolphins, whales, and other creatures around the world, I had a chance to witness firsthand the dramatic changes to our environment. And the more I have learned, the more I felt compelled, and I'm now pro-harassment, but to tell to the general public about my experiences with this animal, but most importantly, the need to protect them. And for me, writing was the best way to share this information. The big question then became, how do I make a complex scientific concept accessible and readable to others? So here are some of the things I've learned. Be simple and straightforward. Many of the concepts we deal with on an everyday basis are difficult to understand without scientific training or technical training. So scientists need to find ways of communicating complex things in lay terms. For instance, we can learn from great communicators in our field and use their examples. Also, analogy can be a very powerful tool when you need to explain something in simpler terms. As Einstein said, most of the fundamental ideas of science are essentially simple and may, as a rule, be expressed in a language comprehensible to everyone. We should always try to remember that. At the same time, though, don't be condescending or pedantic. You should assume that your reader are as smart and curious as you are. They just don't know what you know. You are there to translate. Scientists and the public have different communication styles. Know what you want to say and say it clearly and concisely without putting your readers asleep. If you're a science writer, you're also an entertainer. So stick to the point and make it entertaining. And remember that what you think may be entertaining, it's possible that it's not for other people. Give it to other people to read, and if you see their eyes glassing over, it's time for a rewrite. And then bring me to the next point. Tell compelling story, possibly based on your own experiences, so you can make a connection with the readers. For instance, in one of my books, I recount a story of a school of dolphins that, by leading our research boat in offshore water, brought us to save a girl from drowning. That story opened the possibility not only to engage the reader in the story itself, but also serve as an excellent intro into more complex and seemingly unrelated subjects like brain and social complexity. Even true story can be written more like fictional stories, and pop science can learn a lot from fictional writers. The title of my last book was Dolphin Confidential, Confession of a Field Biologist, kind of a fictional title for a scientific book. In the book I talk about my research about dolphins and other creatures, but I also talk about my personal life. Don't be afraid to talk about things personally. Obviously, you can always be cute and write nice stories. Sometimes you want to communicate things that are not so sexy to the public and make people aware of issue. I wrote, for instance, about dolphins with skin lesion and physical deformities. Now, how do we engage the public in dolphins with bad skin? By incorporating the ugly details as a sort of subplot within an engaging story that can come, yes or no, from your personal experiences. When and if you can, use illustration, visualize your science, and I don't mean with table and graphs. It's not always easy to get publisher to accept color photos due to the high printing cost. But for instance, black and white sketches was my way to bring some life of one of my books. Let's say you wanted to write about climate change, and you feel the urge to express your political view. Resist that urge. Your goal as a science writer is to be accessible to everyone, regardless if they are Democrats or Republican, religious or non-religious person. Now, more than ever, I believe we need to recognize these gaps in our society and write in a way that bridge them. Now, I know other panelists will cover some of the points I've just raised in greater detail. So with this image, what I call the Saint Bottlenose protector of the cetologist, I'm going to hand it over to them. And what we want to do is each of us will give a 10 minutes presentation, And at the end, we want to have an open discussion with all of you. So we'll stick to our presentation for now. Thank you.